Hello, my name is Olivia and welcome to this episode on language diversity, where we will explore how the different ways we speak not only reflect who we are, but also how they shape how others perceive us. Today, we are looking at one interesting area of the widely faceted field of sociolinguistics: linguistic variation and identity. Our guide on this little deep dive is Penny Eckert's influential work on indexical fields and her development of the third wave variation theory. Now I'd like to describe a situation to get you a little into the topic. Imagine you're at an airport and you hear someone speaking in a strong regional accent. Maybe a thick Cockney from London, a broad Australian drawl, or perhaps a smooth Southern American accent. Almost instantly, you form opinions on that person, where they're from, what social class they might belong to, and even what kind of personality they might have. All these assumptions come from their language, and that's what we're going to explore today. How do these accents, dialects, and varieties of English shape not only how others see us, but also how we see ourselves? And how do we actively use language to project different aspects of our identity? Let's explore how Penny Eckert's theories on linguistic variation and identity offer us insights into these questions. Before we take a look at specific examples, let's break down a few key concepts that will guide our discussion today: linguistic variation, indexical fields, social identity, social meaning, styles, and the third wave variation theory. Linguistic variation refers to the different ways people speak within the same language. English, for instance, is not a monolithic language. Its pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary can vary significantly depending on the region, social class, ethnicity, or even the situation. These variations are systematic differences in languages that occur within a speech community, which includes not only accents, so how words are pronounced, but also dialects, which also includes differences in grammar and vocabulary, or even just subtle shifts in speech patterns depending on who we are talking to or what we are talking about. However, linguistic variation goes beyond these observable differences in speech. It's about understanding what these differences mean, so the social meaning in this case. This is where the concept of indexical fields comes into play. An indexical field is a constellation of social meanings that a linguistic feature, like a specific accent or a certain word, can have. They are ideologically linked and associated with linguistic variables within communities and/or contexts. Indexical fields provide a framework through which you can interpret, contextualize, and produce linguistic variations. For example, a Southern American drawl might index regional pride, friendliness, or warmth, but it could also, depending on the context and listener, signal backwardedness or a lack of education. The key here is that these meanings are fluid and not fixed. They change based on context, the speaker's intent, and how listeners interpret them. Social identity is at the heart of how we use language. It is the way we perceive ourselves and how we are perceived by others within social groups, often shaped by factors such as language, culture, and socioeconomic status. Language is one of the primary ways we signal who we are, so also our gender, class, ethnicity, and even our values. And importantly, this isn't a passive process. This is where styles come into play. According to Eckert's third wave variation theory, speakers use styles, which are combinations of linguistic features, to construct their social identity. In other words, we don't just reflect our social background through language, we actively choose linguistic features to project aspects of our identity, whether our local roots, our educational background, or even our professional status. Earlier sociolinguistic theories, often referred to as the first wave and second wave, are focused primarily on correlating language with broad social categories like class, gender, or ethnicity. However, Eckert's third wave theory shifted the focus from what people are to what they do with language. It emphasizes that language is a resource we use to negotiate and construct identity in real time, rather than being a passive reflection of where we're from. Linguistic variation is a tool for constructing and navigating social meaning. With these concepts in mind, let's dive into how linguistic variation plays out in English-speaking communities around the world, starting with some specific examples. Let's begin by taking a closer look at two varieties of English that index different social identities. Received pronunciation, RP for short, in the UK, and African American Vernacular English, AAVE for short, in the United States. Both dialects carry social meanings that shape not only the perception of speakers, but also the construction of their own identities. Received pronunciation, or RP, is often referred to as the Queen's English or BBC English, and it's historically associated with the British upper class, formal education, and social prestige. Unlike regional accents like Cockney or Scouse, RP is a non-regional accent, linked not to a specific area of the UK, but to social status. From an indexical perspective, RP carries a range of social meanings. It often indexes authority, education, and professionalism. For instance, news anchors on the BBC traditionally used RP because it was seen as a neutral and authoritative accent. However, it may also index elitism, privilege, and maybe even detachment from everyday life for many. Speakers of RP can be perceived as distant or overly formal in more casual settings, leading to stereotypes of coldness and arrogance. However, these associations are not static. RP is evolving and its social meaning is changing. In the 21st century, a more relaxed version of RP, known as estuary English, has become more common. Estuary English blends RP with regional features, such as those from Southeast England. This allows speakers to navigate the indexical field more flexibly, to balance formality with approachability. RP speakers often modify their accent depending on the context, using a more formal version in professional settings to project authority, and a less formal one in casual settings to appear more relatable. This strategic use of language exemplifies how people navigate styles to construct their social identity. On the other side of the Atlantic, we find African American Vernacular English, AAVE for short, a variety of English deeply tied to African American culture and history. AAVE has its own distinct grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation patterns, and it serves as a marker of cultural identity and in-group solidarity within African American communities. From an indexical standpoint, AAVE can signal a connection to African American culture, creativity, and authenticity. But much like RP, it also carries a range of meanings depending on the listener. Unfortunately, AAVE is often stigmatized in mainstream American society, where it is seen as incorrect or uneducated English. This stigma results from linguistic discrimination, prejudices based not on the structure of the language itself, but the social and racial biases attached to it. Many speakers of AAVE navigate these negative perceptions by code switching, so shifting between AAVE and standard American English depending on the context. In casual settings, AAVE might be used to signal solidarity and pride, but in professional or formal environments, speakers might switch to standard English to avoid discrimination. This use of code switching reflects Eckert's third-wave theory in action. Speakers use linguistic variation strategically to project different identities depending on their audience. Both RP and AAVE highlight how deeply embedded language is in social hierarchies. RP speakers benefit from a form of linguistic privilege. They are often perceived as more competent or authoritative simply because of their accent. Meanwhile, AAVE speakers face challenges as their dialect is frequently devalued in educational and professional settings, which may reinforce racial inequalities. These perceptions are not just linguistic. They reflect a broader social, racial, and class dynamic. RP's association with power and privilege mirrors the social stratification in British society, while the stigma around AAVE reflects the long-standing racial injustices in the United States. These biases create real-world consequences, from reduced job opportunities for AAVE speakers to increased pressure on RP speakers to modify their accent to fit into a more egalitarian and multicultural space. As a fun little add-on, I also have an audio clip that shows how code switching works for certain people. It's called Hearing Your Friend's Work Voice by Funny Monday Skits on YouTube. Enjoy.
Okay, girlfriends or living single?
I gotta go with girlfriends.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Tracy Ellis Ross changed the game, girl.
There would be no game without living single. I'm just... Hold on, my phone.
Oh, it's my job.
Hello, this is Sandra. Oh my God, are you serious? That sounds like heaven, sister. Okay, I'm down. Okay, smooches. Now, Queen Latifah, she changed the game. She did.
What was that?
Oh, girl, that was my job they want me to lead in this year's conference. I am moving up.
Why was you talking like that?
This is Sandra.
You mean Sandra?
Oh, yes, we should totally have an open bar this year. I mean, it sets the tone, right?
What it does.
Megan, Craigslist is the underbelly of our society. We should go with Indeed. Okay. More smooches.
Give it up.
Don't look at me like that.
More smooches.
Okay, you know what? I said that because I was referring to living single.
What about the accent and the underbelly of our society?
It's called code switching, and we all do it.
Girl, that was not code switching. That was you being possessed by the White Lives Matter spirit. That's what that was.
Okay, Lily. So you don't ever code switch at your job?
No, I do not.
Ever.
Hold on, this is my cousin. What up, Mo? Nah, Slim. Girl, this little mama you talking to. I slide. No, because if he gonna be there, I don't know, because he was geeking too bad last time. I got time for none of that. I'm trying to yeah. Girl, you do. All right. I'll holler.
Little mama.
To come to an end, Penny Eckert's work on linguistic variation, particularly her development of third-wave variation theory and the concept of indexical fields, gives us a way to view language and to analyze it. It shows us that language is not just a reflection of where we're from. It's an active tool for constructing identity and navigating social meaning. Whether we're looking at received pronunciation in the UK or African American vernacular English in the US, we see that linguistic features carry social meanings. These speakers use these features strategically, shaping how they are perceived and negotiating their identity in different contexts. Language, as we've looked at today, is not neutral. It is deeply tied to issues of power, privilege, and prejudice. Language is not just a tool for communication. It can also reflect who we are, where we come from, and how we navigate the world around us. Not only does it carry its literal meaning, but also a plethora of social cues, identities, and values. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this episode has given you some new insights into the relationship between language, identity, and its perception. If you're interested in learning more about this topic in particular, I encourage you to read Penny Eckert's works, especially her research on linguistic variation and identity. This has been Olivia for this episode on language diversity. Stay curious about the ways we speak and how language shapes the world around us. Take care.